Okay, bonjour, Ani. It's me again, Kathy LeBlanc. This is part two, and I'm here with Leanne and Dan at 7th Gen program, and they gave me tobacco to come in here today and try to help share some teachings about our seasonal feasts and Jibak ways. So I just completed the one on Jibak ways, but they kind of overlap because you can't really have a ceremony, a seasonal feast, or really any kind of ceremony without food, and that's a Jibak way. So we always depend on our ancestors that have gone on before us to be with us. The only one I heard at home was if you want to feed your loved ones that have passed on, you have to place your food actually in coals of a fire. Otherwise, it's not necessary. And there's lots of ways to make food offerings for the spirits. They tell us when the thunders come, for instance. It's good to have a stone by your house, and you can take tobacco. Some of them say whiskey, um, and make that offering for the Beneshiwuk. That's their drink, that Chippewa. But tobacco is what they like when those Nokamasanan and Mishom come around. They like that tobacco offering, those Mishom Sanan. So you put tobacco out when the thunders come. And they tell us when a tornado comes, you can go out and offer tobacco, whiskey, put it on a stone, and ask them to go around. There's even old songs that go with that. That they hear those songs and they know that it's enough to go around, don't bother us here, we're Indians. And they tell us we can put an eagle feather on a staff outside of our home on the west side, and those tornadoes and thunders, when they come in, they'll see that. It'd be even better if you could nail it up to the west side of your roof there on the eaves, up high with your tobacco and ribbon offerings on that staff and the eagle feather hanging there. But you don't want it to get blown over. But anyway, when the grandfathers come in, you can put a berry out there if you want on a stone. Another time that they would make offerings for ceremonial reasons would be before you go on the lake to set nets, or just before you go on the lake swimming or on a boat. They say to put tobacco in the water and ask permission and for protection. And if the big wind comes up when you're on a lake, you can put tobacco in the water, it'll calm down. It's an offering to the grandfathers and the spirits. And a lot of people put tobacco out before they go on a trip. I put tobacco out today so I'd have a safe trip down here and return home. And also I'm crossing into another territory. There's different money doog here, and I'm letting them know I'm asking permission to travel over that Mackinac Bridge, or travel along those waterways or different places where there's different money doog that dwell there, and we're just coming through. We're not going to disturb anything. Or when you have, like I mentioned in the first tape, a naming ceremony, you provide a feast for the people that you've invited to come. And same thing with a wedding. You have a giveaway. All that food and tobacco, you put a little bit out. Lots of times there is a fire, and you put some in the coals ahead of time, and you share it with your loved ones. You ask the grandfathers and grandmother spirits that have gone on to be there to bless your union if you're getting married, or to bless this child. They make tobacco offerings to the four grandfathers and grandmothers of the four directions when they're talking with this person or baby that's getting their name. And they bring a kettle and share it with people and put some in the coals first. So there's lots of ways. And again, like I said, they put food right on the graves in the old days, for those ones that were in the ground there, buried there. And sometimes when you're walking in the woods, you know, you might be stepping on old graves. You don't know there's mounds in the woods yet, and different sites that are sacred. You can put tobacco before you go walking in the woods there, in case you accidentally step on something, and then you won't offend anything. Or, you know, teach your kids to respect when they are walking around inside a burial ground or cemetery, to watch where they're stepping. He used to tell us to put cedar in our shoes and put tobacco down first and ask to be excused if we accidentally step, because a lot of them places aren't marked anymore. And so our seasonal feasts, we do those at home. For the longest time we weren't allowed to do that, and we wanted to revive these ways about 45 years ago. And so we started out having a spring feast and a summer feast, an autumn feast, and a winter feast. And we do it in the spring of the year when a lot of them wait till the thunders come back. If you live in an area where the thunders come in the fall, come in the spring and go home in the fall. Some areas it stays winter year round, like up in Alaska almost. So the thunders never come there. So they might go by when the ice melts or whatever they do up there. Different tribes have their own ways of doing things, and you look at the seasons. It used to be in our months, the names of our months told us what season we were in and what was going on at that time. But it's been changing since the earth is changing right now, and since the magnetic poles are shifting, our seasons are changing also. I can remember about 4 years ago, it's the crust on the snow moon in March, and the snow was already melted fully. So you can't go by that anymore. You almost have to see what's going on around you in nature, and that's an indicator of when things are going to be. Like they tell us the day the crows come back, the sap starts running. So that's when we know we can go tap trees. And it's odd because the same day the crows come back, the swallows come back. And I used to have swallows in my house where I lived in Reiko, and they came back every year on the same day in March, and it was the same time they come back to Capistrano in California. I used to laugh about that. But they're guided by those magnetic poles, the North and South Pole. And so you have to wait because it's different every year. You don't know if it's going to be a cold winter and it's going to hang around long, at least at home, or if it's going to melt early and we're going to have an early spring. Same thing in the autumn. You don't know if it's going to last, if the snow is going to come later or earlier. So you gauge it by, are there lots of berries this year? Are there hardly any berries this year? You don't know. Is it going to be a hard winter? If you see a lot of berries, chances are there's going to be lots of snow, and the earth is providing for those animals to make it through that hard winter, and enough food there for them. And sometimes there isn't hardly any berries, and sure enough, it isn't that bad of a winter. So we have these feasts during the seasons of the year, like a spring feast, to give thanks for making it through the winter. And we're still running on our stores of dried meat or cranberries we picked, or canned, or fish that we froze or smoked or powdered or whatever. Our jerky, whatever we got left from last year, we put something back, and then we're ready. We have a little ceremony to talk for tapping up those trees. And there's a medicine you can drink when you're making maple sap. You can take some of that, and it cleans you out. In the spring of the year, after a long winter, your blood gets thick, and it's a good medicine to drink before you make it into syrup. That sap right out of a maple tree, and give it to your kids, and it cleans up their blood. It's kind of like they say the first fish that come up into the creeks in the spring are the suckers. That's when the creeks are breaking open and they come in. Suckers, they're bottom feeders. And the word for sucker is namaben, and that's like a prayer fish or a sacred fish. They clean the bottom of those riverbeds, and they're blessing those grounds and getting them ready for when the other fish come in to spawn. And so they break open the creeks, and come to find out, when they would eat suckers in the spring of the year, they're bony, but there's meat on them, and that fish is really a good blood purifier. It's good for your arteries, and it breaks up all that cholesterol and everything in there. So that's what they do, and that's the food that's out there. And when the bears come out of hibernation, that's one of the first fish they can get in the spring of the year. Same like the maple sap. So they're going to eat what's available at that season to put the nutrients back in their body, those bears, to get fattened up by next fall so they can hibernate. They tell us the bears are the ones that volunteered to fast for the animal world nations. And the tamarack trees, those needles turn golden in the autumn and they fall off. They look like dead pine trees. They volunteered to fast for the plant world. And they won't get needles till the spring again. They'll get real nice light baby green needles in the spring, and then they flourish through the summer at Mishko Matig, that tamarack. So they have their little ceremonies too, plants and trees and cedars. They have clans. They have swamp clan and gravel clan and mud clan. And when you transplant a cedar in your yard sandy, you might want to look for a cedar out of a sandy soil, and it'll take there better. And they say that we're running out of white cedar, by the way, that flat cedar, so it's a good idea to try to transplant some, especially on your res, because the federal forestry stopped stocking those federal forests of white cedar a good 30 years ago. So we're going to have to look at that, because we're still using it, and try to plan ahead so we have enough cedar for our ceremonies. But anyway, getting back to these feasts, seasonal feasts, so in the spring of the year, you're thinking about all those things, those brand new, they call it Zigwin, when that sap starts coming up into the trees. That's early spring. And then they have Minokami, which is good earth, which is around the time those strawberries are coming ripe. And then we put something back. They say the first berry you pick, you can pick a cupful and take it to an elder to eat as an offering. That's an offering. That's a spirit feast. Or you can put it in the coals in your ceremonial feast and feed your loved ones that you've invited there also, because they're waking up on the other side. That's their breakfast. Or you can take one berry and smash it on a stone and offer it to the bear spirit or the thunders. So those are all little different ways that you can make food offerings for ceremonies, for feasts in the seasons of the year. And you can, I had elder, well, it was Adam Lucier, he said the spirits of the plants and trees and animals and Mother Earth are really hungry right now, and they're really sick. This was before he passed away. He said, you don't have to wait till the seasonal feast to make your food offerings for creation. Do it now. Do it every time you eat. That's how weak they are. There's so many blights on the trees right now, and Mother Earth really needs a lot of prayers and help. The waters, take your tobacco and food down to the water's edge. Don't forget, to put offerings to give thanks for that water. We do those in the spring and fall. And the various sacred sites around that are still left untouched, whether they're turned into a national park or forest or not, that still are sacred sites on this Mother Earth, this North America, this Turtle Island. Mikanak Minising, I always take tobacco to the Straits. The past 30 years I've been bringing maple syrup there, and maple sugar for that Gitcha Mikanak Manidu, because that's what he likes. Others go up on the big lake in the spring of the year in February before the ice fully breaks up. And they say they can wrap up tobacco on a stick in a little tobacco tie, and you put all your worries and your sicknesses and that prayers and that tobacco, on a stick. You run out on the ice as far as you can, and you throw that stick. I'm throwing my sickness away. And you just turn around and let it go. All your aches and pains, and that ice takes it. Or others will take cloth down the beach and plug tobacco in the spring of the year and give thanks, maybe some whiskey or some kind of alcohol. They pour it, maybe some pennies and nickels. We use that money, that zhonya, that mishkwabik, that copper. And we put an offering back for those guardian spirits that watch over those mines, because the humans are taking, and they say the minerals are weak. They're asking for prayers. So that's another thing that we can do. So we think about those things and we talk for them. We talk for all of our sacred feathers, our sacred items, our sacred drums, our sacred jingle dresses, our medicines and plants that we pick. We talk for those things, the spirits of those things, our sweat lodges, our ceremonial lodges. And we feast the spirit of those. Our names, we think about our clans. We put food offerings for those things. We can do that at each season. We roll around the summertime, and that's traditionally a berry feast. You know, that's when the strawberries, blueberries, raspberries are ripening. People would bring a lot of berries and give thanks for that berry time, that berry picking time, along with other foods that we're getting, you know, out of our gardens, or maybe hazelnuts. If you can beat the squirrels to the hazelnut trees, people used to pick hazelnuts. Lots of medicines are being harvested midsummer. Lots of bark, lots of roots for crafts, for making snowshoes, canoes, baskets, black ash, wisaguk they call that. You know, harvesting, you know, things to make bowls, utensils. All that's got to be harvested in the summer. You don't have time to sit down and make it. That you can do in the winter, but summertime you're going with the seasons. You know, you got to get it when it's there. Maybe that particular medicine recipe calls for something that you can only get in the spring, summer, fall. So you can't really put it together till winter because you got to wait till all those things come right at the right time. But anyway, we have those seasonal ceremonies in summertime to think about all those spirits that give up their life so we can get what we need to survive. Then you roll around to autumn, Dagwagi. That's what you were going to have here, but we weren't able to because of this sickness. So I say, Gawin ge go, Majan akuzi, when that sickness, don't come here. And we put these food offerings in the coals here. The workers here can do that on behalf of this whole entire community without everybody coming here. Long as one person does it and talks for everything. And we're asking for life. That's the reason we're doing this. We're making our petition. We're making our tithings. We're putting our food offerings in this autumn time of year to give thanks. We're feasting our loved ones that's gone on also. We can do those ceremonies at the same time, or we can do them separately. It doesn't matter. But we're giving thanks for those Beneshiwok Nikan and those Keteama Joe Manidug that walk before us, and those thunder beings. They come from the west. They come in and they lightning and they clean everything. They ozonate the air. That electricity goes through everything, kills bacteria, and they're going to migrate south again. So we're grateful for what they do, and we put tobacco down. And we think of our veterans at that time also, you know, our warriors that have walked on before us. But we're also thinking about the deer we're going to harvest that are ready when their coat turns red. They're ready to be taken, you know, and they're going to give up their life for us to have food. We can make clothes out of their hide. The Creator give them that to give to us, and that helps them to do their purpose. And we put tobacco down. There's an organ there that runs next to their stomach, a spirit bag they call it, and they used to take and hang that over a tree branch, and that'll guarantee you'll get another deer next time you hunt. The elders showed us that from up in Whitefish Bay area, Ontario, Kenora area, told us about that. We didn't know about that. Well, we have hunters in our community that know other hunting medicines and stuff that they do. But anyhow, that feast, so we're thinking about the Western grandfathers and grandmothers in Nodin, and we're feasting them. That's the time of year when things get ready to go back. Mother Earth gets, all the trees get beautiful colors. You put on your best clothes. They say it blinds evil when everything is in full color like that. Evil can't see. And then when we're done, we do that before the sun goes down, those feasts. And we do it before the leaves fall off the trees. And then everything gets ready for winter to go to bed, including our relations that have gone on. So now comes winter. We have a winter feast at home, but we don't wake anything up because all the money do go to sleep. The Pawisak, the Mamegwisak, Pitaknigo Manidu, all the Bigfoot, they all go to sleep, and people rest. A lot of their bundles are closed up at that time. You let them spirits have a rest. The tree spirits, the medicine plants, you don't really pick in the winter. You could if it's an emergency or something, and it's green and you can get it from under the snow, but pretty much you've already done all your harvesting. You already cut your wood, that you're going to need for the winter. You already gathered everything you're going to use, and you stay in. It's a cold time. It's that grandfathers and grandmothers from the north come in and take over. So those are the ones we think about. The ones that are up. Those ravens, they migrate. They stay around all winter. They got to hide. They're different from a crow. A crow just has skin. And then there's other beings out there, those white buffalo, white deer, white grandfathers and grandmothers. That white owl, he's sacred. He's a daytime bird. He's a really sacred bird. Those eagles that still fly, the things in creation, and the fish that you're going to get when you ice fish. You give thanks for those things. But we don't wake anybody up. We don't unless we had to. Sometimes people have to wake up an elder that's gone on, or they invoke them with prayers for help for somebody. You're asking for help for something. But as a rule, when you do your winter feast, you just talk for, to have safety. Like, don't freeze the birds, and keep us warm this winter, and thank you for the food that we got put away. And keep that cold off in us. But we give thanks for our dream times and the nighttime spirits and Grandma Moon, and there's lots of things in creation that we can say miigwech for all the time. And that purity of that snow, and Mother Earth's having a rest in the winter, just like going to sleep now. And then come spring again, you can start feeling that change in the air, that spring fever, whatever they call it. That new energy, that new power, that brand new born baby power energy, that new life, like getting up in the morning, all kinds of energy in the morning. And then, you walk through your life. Mother Earth walks through her life. She becomes a young woman, and she's standing up straight, and those teenagers and young people are really got a lot of energy and a lot of health at that time, or we're supposed to have. And then if we take care of ourselves, we love our bodies, and you don't have to worry about freezing or anything like that. And there's food right on the trees, and it's easier. Sun's straight up, and you work your way around to the autumn, and your hair starts turning gray, and you start realizing, holy pakwasa, I could have died doing that, And pretty soon you start worrying, like, oh my God, I should have been more careful. And you get more sense to you. And then you become a grandparent, and pretty soon you keep walking in that stage of life. Some people get all the way over there to where their hair is fully white, and they're in their 80s and 90s, and they sleep a lot. You go to bed early and get up late, just like the sun. Get your Anishinaabe, and then pretty soon, they don't have teeth anymore, and they got to have someone help them change their diaper, just like next thing you know, bam, they're a brand newborn baby in another world, like in the spirit world, and going closer and closer to the Creator. So it's never ending, it's infinite. And that's the cycles of creation. And we have feasts, and we put food out and honor those blessed gifts that we receive from Gijemnido and all the Manidug that are in creation, and Kisis, the sun. So that's what I want to say about our seasonal feasts. And again, like different ceremonies, like the big drum ceremonies and the Medewan ceremonies and the Peyote ceremonies, Native American Church, they have feasts. They all have their own protocols, clan feasts and namings and weddings, and those are all different types of ceremonies that our people had. Fasting, feasts for the first time you ever got a deer, and the teachings that go with that. And they vary from clan to clan or family to family. And they even had an Ogimaigan, a chief's council, and they had feasts and governance and feasts for the great law, if they had that wampum, whatever, our sacred drums, our sacred hoops, our rattles, our pipes, they all have to be fed. The spirits, there's a spirit that accompanies all those sacred items. including ourselves, our names, and our medicines, our maybe we have sacred stones, or maybe we have uh, something that's sacred to us and has a spirit. Even our daban, our car, it's called a he or a she. It's not an it. Our canoes, those they have a money due with them, a spirit. So we thank them, for taking care of us and traveling long ways away. So that's all I got to say about. There's no wrong way to do a ceremony, and there's no wrong way to do a feast. And if you're the only one, the last one doing it, it counts for everything if you talk for it. And it's a way of putting something back for what we take and being grateful for this life, this minnow bimadaziwan, and asking for life. And I say miigwech to everybody for listening to me. And these aren't my teachings. I'm just passing on the knowledge that I went out and asked about, and every one of you have knowledge that you already know, that you can bring to the circle and add to your 2 cents. And you could have a talking circle, and you could have food there, and you could put a little plate out on a stone or on a trunk of a tree or in the water. It doesn't have to be a fire unless you're feeding your loved ones that have gone on. And then no, the money dues are there and ready to answer you, help you. So, and they like to be included. I even seen one guy one time traveling out west back in my younger days. He was a Lakota, but they do that too. Other tribes do that. And he was going to drink a Hams or a Pabst Blue Ribbon or something. He was a vet, And he poured some on. Give some to the boys, he said. Took a drink. But I thought about that. This one elder told me them old chiefs a long time ago used to have their dish and spoon right on their belt, And that guy he was a warrior. Now this is going back like 1800s. He had holes drilled in the bottom of his bowl, and he put his soup in there. You come into someone's camp, right away they put soup in your bowl, And he was eating, that broth was dripping out them holes onto the ground, so he had to eat, and that was his offering. So that's how much they believed in that, and that's what they put back, because back in the day, maybe every other day, depending on how good of a hunters you had, hardly anybody was fat, So I say miigwech, now our foods make us fat. We all look like those cows there that McDonald's is raising with them hormones. We're all shaped like that. You are what you eat. No, we got to pay attention to what we're putting in us. So I say miigwech, talk over your food and put the spirit back in there and give thanks for it ahead of time. Miigwech.